All right, there we go. Got that. Got that. All right, clicking it, letting it go. You guys let me know if my fan in the background is too much. I can turn it off, but then I will look like I have a fever. But welcome in, everybody. I have it off me. It's not oscillating. It's on low, so hopefully we're okay. And welcome in. It is Tuesday evening. Time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, on these Tuesday evening shows, Carl Dumler. Carl, if I pass out on the show, just keep the show going. Maybe Scott can jump in. I am in the office today because my wife took the folding table, which I had set up in the basement for my recording area, up to the bedroom where the air conditioner is so she could work. She works from home, so that's fair. But I am in a room that says it's 90 degrees right now. So, again, I will hold out, but maybe I should have brought a water in here. That was really dumb. But how are you doing? I hear it's hot out there in Kansas as well.
Yeah, we're having another one of our moments of heat this summer. It's actually been really cool here, considering what our summers are usually like. So today was probably like 92, 93, something like that. Later in the week, it's going to be up there at about 100. I just actually got done with the run. So if I'm a little shiny, it's because I just got done sweating. But yeah, it's not too bad. As long as I stay inside, I've got working air conditioning, all that fun stuff. My place is at 90 like yours right now. Mine's like 73.
It is. It's hot in here, and it's hot. And unfortunately, with it being so hot and dry, my state of Washington is on fire right now. But hopefully that can burn out a little bit. I don't know. It's not good times, but hopefully everybody's having a good time. Excited to be here on Tuesday evening. Got some Broncos news today we want to get into. But before we do that, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We got Mike S. in here saying, "What's up, Carl, Nick, Scott, Dylan, and Broncos country?" Mike, how's Crimson Tide looking this year? I feel like they're typically, number 4 in the rankings, number 4 to 6. I feel like it's dangerous to sleep on Alabama that low, but it seems pretty consensus that Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State have been above them, with Florida State being somewhat of a dark horse right now. So let us know what's going on with your Alabama guys. I know that they have some prospects that we're probably definitely going to get into in 6-7 months from now. David Youngkin's in the house saying, I think Stidham was a flash in the pan. DiNucci is a better choice for the backup quarterback. What do you think here? Obviously, we haven't had a chance to talk about the Friday night game. Broncos going into Arizona losing, and Stidham didn't look good, but DiNucci did. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you got to look at the entire narrative of everything that's going on. The Broncos gave up the most pressure of any team in week 1, and I think Russell Wilson was number 1 on pressure, as like 63% of his dropbacks were under pressure. Stidham was number 3 for the week. And the DiNucci was clear down at like 11% of his dropbacks were under pressure. So he had a little bit more time in the pocket, a little bit more time to operate everything. I like DiNucci. I think he has the potential to actually be a decent backup in the NFL. And I don't think Stidham's job is completely safe at this point, but they did pay him some pretty decent money. And I do think that he has a fan in Sean Payton. When they signed him, like Sean Payton was raving about this kid and what he could be in the future and how he could become a starter. And I can't see him already giving up on him at this point.
Yeah. I mean, just contractually, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to move on from him just yet. But if DiNucci is better, then I have no issue playing him. I mean, let them both play. I know that you get the little bonus now of having that extra activated player on game day, going from, I think it was 46 to 47 or 47 to 48. If that last player is a quarterback, so another reason to keep him. And I think there is more of a competition going forward with DiNucci and Stidham as well. I think, to be completely fair to Stidham versus DiNucci, while Russell Wilson was the first most pressure rate quarterback this last week, and from any quarterback that had 5 dropbacks, Stidham was number 3 in that list. He was constantly under duress as well, and is a little bit less athletic than Russell Wilson as well, and without Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims and Brandon Johnson out there, and of course Tim Patrick, the wide receivers he was working with as well. Not as good for your second string that you're looking for out there. I mean, that's your top 5 guys right there. You can even say Cajun Hamler, top 6 on the depth chart would have gone at that point. So I would be curious to see if in camp those guys get a little bit more competition between each other, but I don't think they are going to get rid of Stidham at this point. So we'll see. We got Dylan Von Arx in the house.
I think they'll keep 3.
You think they'll keep 3 as well? I'm not against them giving DiNucci more snaps as the second string in the San Francisco game and also in camp and whatnot. Just, competition's good. But I don't think it's for sure they're going for Danucci over Stidham. I think, but the question has opened somewhat, without a doubt. Dylan Von Ark's coming in. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and subscribe if you haven't already. We will always appreciate that shout out there from our guy, Dylan Von Arks. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are excited. I'm hoping that you're going to be there at the meet and greet too. I'm not sure if you are just yet. We had a chance to meet last year at the Broncos at Seahawks game, and Dylan couldn't make it, but hopefully this time we can. Kevin Gray coming in. Evening, Nick, Carl, and Scott. Big Mile High salute. Hope you're doing well. He also says, are the Broncos going to bring in another kicker to compete? So I guess that's probably the biggest news today. The Broncos release / medically waive Elliott Fry, who suffered a slight injury, and they're keeping Brett Maher right now. So they just have one kicker. They bring in a long snapper as well to compete. I think that maybe says that they weren't super happy with the snaps in the training camp, obviously, as well as the preseason game. Maybe there's some blame there for some of the kicking issues. But Elliott Fry, we hardly knew ye. It's Brett Maher's team for now. I do think they're going to bring another kicker to compete.
Yeah, it's you can't after what Maher showed out there on that preseason game, and you can blame it some on the long snapper. I did notice a lot of the snaps were just a hair high. Usually the quarterback was having to reach up just a little bit and bring it down. Usually like it where it's hitting right where their hands are. They just have to place it, and maybe that threw off the timing of the kickers just a bit. Throw in field conditions. I mean, we can give a lot of reasons, but still, kickers, you got to be able to deal with that. It's going to be part of the game. You try to mitigate it as much as you can, and part of that's going to be, like I said, long snapper competition. It's one of those jobs where nobody knows your name until you mess up. You can say, yeah, I was in the NFL, and everybody's going to be like, who? What? How did you play? Like, where did you play? And they're going to be like, long snapper. Oh, I've never heard of you before. Unless you're the deep dive people that just love that kind of stuff, you're not going to care a whole lot about the long snapper. But yeah, they got to get that figured out, because if you're automatically going into every week worried about your kicker and whether you're going to be able to even make a field goal, that puts a lot of pressure on the offense to have to score touchdowns, puts a lot of pressure on the defense to keep scores a little bit lower. You think about 9 points missed in this last game. You go from bottom 10 offense to top 10 offense in that difference of those field goals.
Yeah. I mean, heck, if anything, maybe it'll make this team a little bit more aggressive on fourth downs and 2-point conversion situations. We'll see. I'm here for a little bit more aggression in those situations, but you got to be able to, some of those PATs even just barely squeaked through. So hopefully it'll be better. And as Scott says in the chat here, shout out to Scott producing in the background. Show would be a lot clunkier without him. He mentioned that Sean Payton said there are probably 7 teams with legit kicking competitions right now. And that means that Maher is also being evaluated and competing against those other guys. So, excited about that, and we'll see what happens. And I do think that there's a little bit of a delay for some reason between Carl and I in the feed. So not sure what's going on there, but hopefully it'll kind of catch itself up there. I do think, let me check. I'm on the right router, so hopefully it'll get better. Heath Holmes coming here saying, oh, no, who is hurt now? We'll get into that here in a second, but I do want to say hello to Heath and also go Hawkeyes to Heath. Dave from Georgia saying hello, Broncos country. Hello to you out there in Dogs country. Jeremy Sean, good evening, everyone. We also got our guy Nathan Noble coming in. Sup, y'all? Good to see you. Quentin Caldwell, good evening, everybody. Our guy Dom saying good evening, Carl, Nick, Scott, and Broncos country. Thank you so much, Dom. We appreciate you. And Troy, I think I skipped right past that. I pulled it up there, and then I just started moving on. So Troy Bauer coming in $9.99. Troy is always very consistent with that $9.99. We appreciate that. Says, hey, guys. Happy JL Skinner might see some time. Reps are good for everyone so long as the injuries to others are not serious. I'm not concerned. Have a great show. Yeah, I'm not apparently. I guess, Carl, I'll give you the floor here on this one, and we'll see how long it takes you to react. There's a quick smile. Okay, I think we're okay. The injuries today. What went down at camp? What do we know about Broncos injury report?
Yeah, so sounds like Justin Simmons has been out for about 10 days. Kareem Jackson got kind of a veteran day off for the safety position. Then Caden Stearns went down with an injury. PJ Locke went down. He was carted off the field. It does sound like he's going to be okay, but he could be out here for a little while. So then all of a sudden you got Turner Yell in there as one of the safeties. And I can't remember who they had else starting. Skinner actually wasn't even the next guy in. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see, are they willing to to bank on his future, because right now, by the depth chart and what they've really been showing at practice, he's probably about safety number 7 on the roster right now. Yeah. And you're not keeping 7 safeties.
Yeah. No.
Pretty much you're going to be lucky if you keep 5.
Probably about 5, but we'll see what happens with the Locke injury as well. PJ Locke, it sounds like he's going to be okay, but, worth monitoring. Delarian Turner-Yell was above JL Skinner in that first depth chart. It's probably going to come down to special teams, and just doesn't sound like Skinner's really stood out so far in camp. So I'm wondering how much the Broncos are trying to hide / potentially stash him. Maybe he's somebody, and we saw talk every year, oh my gosh, if you waive that guy, there's no way he's going to end up on the practice squad. And then like only 5 players that are waived end up like getting picked up by other teams and that kind of thing. But we'll see. Maybe the Broncos are trying to stash him. Maybe he's just not standing out. I mean, they've spent a good amount of D3 capital on the safety position over the last few seasons. Maybe he's just not getting out there. I was excited about the pick when it happened. A lot of people had him as a 3rd round grade, but he's got such a weird build as well. I mean, he's very, very skinny, especially in his base. And maybe there's some questions about if you're a depth safety, you damn well better contribute in special teams. And if he's getting beat out by those other guys, I guess that speaks to the other guys as well, stepping up. So we'll see how it plays out. Ernie May is in the house. Hello, Nick and Carl. Go Broncos country only. Good to see you, Ernie. Hope you're doing well. Nathan comes in here and says, I'd take DiNucci as the 2nd quarterback. I'd like to see competition between both of them. That's for sure. Greg Smith, good evening, Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Hope you're doing well. Our guy, Michael Ronquillo. Hopefully it's getting hot. Is it getting hot in here? Is it just me? No, it's 92 degrees in here now. Says, good evening, Nick and Carl on building the Broncos. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Thank you so much, Michael, with the stars always coming in here. I mean, just what a huge, consistent contributor to all the shows on Mile High Huddle. He's answering the call of action there, saying thank you for being super supporters and for the stars. Much love and respect. That goes especially for Michael Ronquillo, always coming in and helping, as well as our guy Gary Palmer saying, hey, Nick, Carl, Dylan, and Scott, thanks again for all the hard work. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Hope you're doing well, Gary. Always appreciate the notorious GLP, Big E Bronco. Hope everyone's having a good night. We're doing pretty well, pretty darn well. Chase saying there's a couple of sheep in here. Those are, he can't be saying goats. That's for sure. Thank you, Chase. Always coming in. Hope you're doing well. And I think so getting back to the injury reports here, so now we've said hello to some people. Michaela Israel in the house. Albert Knopper's in the house. Good to see you. Rodney Garcia. Any updates on Benito's injury? Did we hear anything about Nick Benito's hip injury? I mean, I know that DJ Jones was back out there, and he's the one with a concussion. So that was concerning. Surtain, Sutton out there going in pads. So not super worried about them. But I don't remember hearing anything about Nick Benito with the hip injury.
So he was working on the sideline. Didn't get any kind of reps. They didn't give him a helmet or anything like that, but trying to do some stretching on the side. It's not great by any means, but at least he's out there with the team. Like, you get nervous if a guy is not on the field for a while. That usually shows that the injury is a little bit more intense and he's back there getting treatment throughout the entire practice, where at least now Benito's out there, probably just needs a little bit more time. They're probably just trying to be as careful as they can. Every team at this point, they're going to nurse a lot of injuries, especially any kind of veterans that have been out there. I know Benito's not a veteran, but, I think of like McGlinchey. You already know what you got in him. Like, you don't need him to be fully out there on the field to have him ready for week 1.
Yeah, we know that he's going to make the team and everything like that. I think there is some question about what we have in him just yet, given the injuries and the weight fluctuation and what his tape was like last season. But it's not as far as evaluating what his role is going to be. You paid him. You know what his role is damn well going to be. So hopefully Benito is going to be okay. He was looking pretty darn good in camp so far. I thought he flashed a lot in that game against the Cardinals. And going up against the 49ers would be another good test for him, especially that probably going to see, I don't know if we're going to see Frank Clark in this one, but you're going to want your edge rushers out there, no doubt, getting after those 49ers quarterbacks, whoever it may be back there. Zach Wilson, not the quarterback for the New York Jets, but saying, I was going to say New England Jets now. It says, how are we doing, Broncos country? Looking to redeem ourselves against the Niners. I mean, it always sucks to lose a game last second like they did against the Cardinals, but it was, guys who are really probably not going to make the team for the most part, and I'm not really too worried about it. Would have been nice to get that W after all the work and whatnot. Yeah. Was Sean Payton probably upset about it because they want to win every game, and that's just the nature of being ultra competitive? Yeah. But if the Broncos go 0-3 in preseason, but the starters look good and they're working on things and staying healthy, I'll take it. I'm not really too worried about that. Do you think Broncos will redeem themselves against the Niners, Carl? I guess we won't talk again before that game. We'll talk, but not live.
I think it'll be a decent game. I mean, you got to remember 49ers, as much as they maybe are having this quarterback competition going on, they at least have 3 guys with real starting potential with experience. I mean, we could argue how much that potential really is. Usually when you kind of got that kind of depth, you've got a better chance. Just a guy that has, like I said, he's had some starts in the NFL and he's going against 3rd stringers, 4th stringers, probably going to tear them apart. Where the Broncos, I don't think they quite have that ability at the quarterback position. You know, we saw in this last game, 3rd, 4th string, cornerback, safeties. A lot of those guys were way out of position on a lot of plays. And when you got wide open wide receivers like in this last game, it just makes life easier. So I don't expect the Broncos to win this one. But again, they're not trying to game plan. You know, they were talking at practice today. There's a few plays where Sean Payton actually kind of got into some tricks, some of the things to really scheme guys open. And people were just impressed going, oh my gosh, it's crazy how he just made this guy have like 5 yards of separation because of, you know, all the different things that they were doing on the field. So they're not doing that in these preseason games. They're not going to show that kind of stuff. And so it's going to look very different once you get to the actual games compared to what you're seeing here in the preseason.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from what could be different preseason to regular season is just the split of the distribution of pass to run plays. If the offensive line is getting pulverized like they were against the Cardinals in pass rush, pass blocking situations, and you'll see run just to protect the offense and protect the quarterback. Kind of saw that last season with the Broncos, and it worked out pretty well. You lose a little bit of explosiveness, big playability if you're leaning run instead of pass, but got to protect yourself too. Gina Cooper coming in with the support and the stars over on Facebook. Thank you so much, Gina. We really do appreciate that. Says, I'm ready for some 4th down trick plays. All right, man, I love this. And challenging the 4th down gameplay moving forward. I mean, there's risk and reward for sure, but Sean Payton loves a challenge. If the kicking game is going to be struggling, I bet you there's going to be more 4th down aggression going forward. It's really going to depend on the game flow and whatnot, but I think Sean Payton historically has been one of the more aggressive coaches in this situations. Maybe not an outright trick play on 4th down, but curious to see what it looks like for him. And thank you so much, Gina. What do you think? 4th down trick plays, Carl?
As long as it's not a tight end sweep like we saw with Nathaniel Hackett,
yeah,
I think I can be okay with it. You know, I think he's going to have some better designs if he's going to run those kind of trick plays. You know, I like a trick play about every 3 or 4 games. I don't want to get too crazy with it because it's kind of a either really, really big play, positive or negative. Mm-hmm. There's not usually a whole lot in between that. So you're taking a risk with it, getting it out of your quarterback's hands if that's what you're doing on the trick play, or there's just so much that can go wrong. I always get a little bit nervous with that. It's kind of the same thing with like the screen game. Yeah. There's not as many positives in throwing a screen pass as a lot of people think there is. There's a lot more times it seems to go negative than to go positive.
I think it's almost like a body shot sometimes, though. Like if a team is getting really aggressive and you can just dump down a pass and have all those players effectively take themselves out. I know that you and Eric were kind of raging against it, but if teams are going to be that aggressive against the Broncos, they better damn well be able to work in a screen every once in a while. And I might be a little bit biased towards the screenplay because what was it? The 2005 AFC Championship game against the Steelers where Ben Roethlisberger would just have guys draped on him and he'd dump it down to the back and the back. Like the Broncos got him. They got him. Nope, it's a screenplay and he's going for 40 freaking yards. It like happened like 4 or 5 times in that AFC Championship game. So if they're going to be that aggressive against Wilson, then I'm not against them using the screen game. It can't be the only thing they do, but it's a good way to counter the aggressive blitzing teams. So I know the EPA doesn't really line up that much, but there's a lot of incompletions and low yardage stuff too.
Right. And I don't really disagree with it from this last game. Like you said, Arizona was blitzing like crazy. So make them pay for that. And like I said, screen pass, get it right over the top of all these guys coming after the quarterback, works great. And there's actually some really nice screens set up for the Broncos that just kind of missed. You know, the Samaje Perine one really sticks out. He had 3 blockers, probably about 20 yards of space in front of him. If he catches that, that's at least a first down, if not a touchdown. And so it's just little things like that. I don't mind them. Like I said, just a few times a game. just to keep a defense honest, especially like I said, if they're going to be aggressive. And it seems like teams kind of have that mentality of we're going to be very aggressive towards Russell Wilson. We're going to make him make a very quick decision of where he's going with the football. And we think we can get him to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And so if teams are going to do that, like I said, call some screen passes and make sure that they have to respect that you might just beat him right over the top of that aggressive defense coming after him.
Yeah. If they're going to be that aggressive, then they're going to have to be able to work some of that out there and also use some of that athleticism, hopefully, that Bulls and Quinn Miners have, without a doubt. So let's keep it going here. We got a 1999 Super coming in here from our guy Stu McPeak. Stu, it's been a hot second. Hope you're doing well. See some of the I don't want to say an old head, but some of the OGs in here coming in saying, hi, all. Is our offense getting better? I think it'd be pretty damn hard for the offense to be worse, even if they kept the entire players all the same next year, just from competency and game planning perspective. Sean Payton would be much better. The offense would be better. I thought Russell Wilson looked better. This team is going to go as far as the offensive line goes. In that first game, a little bit concerning, but it is the first game. They got time to work on it. They spent, I don't want to say we're at the point where there's no excuses for the offensive line because I really don't love the depth, but with how much expenditures are on the offensive line, they need to at least be a middle of the pack one. Anything less than like the 15th best offensive line would be a failure in my book, given how much they spent on the unit.
So in that first game, of the starting unit that was out there, I know McGlinchey didn't play. Who do you think had the best day of the five?
Probably Lloyd Cushenberry, which is not.
I would agree.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. But I'd probably say Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yeah, I thought he actually looked pretty competent. Now, again, we're not in full games yet and how teams are going to try to scheme up against this offensive line or anything like that. But I at least left there a little bit more confident in him, a little less confident in a lot of the other guys, unfortunately, especially Garrett Bowles. That was, he had a lot of good reps, but his bad reps were really, really bad, where he just was completely getting thrown out and making it into a very negative play, either being a sack or quick hit on the quarterback. Yeah. And it just, like I said, unfortunately for an offensive tackle, like you can have a great game and have one really bad play and it turns it right into a pretty bad game for you. I mean, that's just kind of the optics of it. I'm not saying that that's exactly how it all plays out, but again, if you're getting your quarterback hit like that once a game, where it's just a straight hit right on the quarterback, full speed, not a good thing.
Yeah, and still talking offensive line, Rodney Garcia says, how concerned are you guys with left tackle Garrett Bowles? If he continues to struggle, do you guys think Sean Payton will pull him out? I think that if he does struggle, there'll be some questions there. That being said, Cam Fleming, who I thought had a very good year last year, struggled in the small sample size, but still struggled against the second team rushers of the Arizona Cardinals. So I guess if there's some point, especially if Bowles is having, confidence issues out there, maybe they'll just go with Cam Fleming, who is a much better gap blocker tackle than Garrett Bowles, and maybe lean into that a little bit on that side. But definitely a concern. And I think that if Bowles does struggle this year, this will probably be his last year in Denver and probably becomes position number one in terms of our draft positional rankings for this team coming up next year. And it looks like a pretty good tackle class. So worth monitoring at this point in time, given Bowles' struggles and his contract.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's got to get some things figured out if he's going to even last this season. There's been some narrative out there that the Broncos have been trying to give Fleming a few opportunities to maybe go win the starting job. And obviously, like I said, he didn't have a great game this last week. And it sounds like a lot of the offensive tackles have struggled in practice. And it's sad to see that the Broncos are at this position, even after spending all this money for the offensive line.
Yeah. Yep. Without a doubt. It's I know that Scott's putting in the cap numbers this year, but they have a large overall average per year contract and big guarantees as well. So they spent so much on him. You have first round pick in Bowles as well, Quinn Miners and Lloyd Cushenberry, third round picks. I don't love the depth of the unit overall, but spent enough that they need to be better than what they showed against Arizona and obviously better than what we saw last year. So the only ones you're really married to beyond the season are McGlinchey and Powers. So let's say the unit does tank. You better hope that those two guys are not completely unsalvageable and horrible, because it's easy to move on from Cushenberry's last year of his contract. Bowles' contract is you save $16 million next year, only 4 dead moving on from him. He's not going to play on that contract. And Quinn Miners, I think he'll be starting again next year because he's going to be so cheap. But if he's struggling in pass protection, like we saw a few reps against the Cardinals, maybe we have a conversation there in the very least. Got to get the best 5 out there. Phil McLaughlin coming in saying, evening, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. Excited to see Javonte play this Saturday. Go Broncos, buck 'em. And thank you so much, Phil. And yeah, good transition here. Says Javonte Williams is playing. Carl, if you'd have told me this 8 months ago, that we'd be seeing Javonte Williams play in a preseason game, and they're like, even George Payton is throwing around like 100% and looks great, and that he's going to be starting, I would have looked at you like you had a second head coming out of your neck. Right? Just like, no way. I don't believe it. It would be unprecedented. We've never seen that before in that level of turnaround with 2 major ligament tears in one knee. Here we are. He's going to be playing. It sounds like he's going to be ready week 1. I'll believe it when I see it still, but just unbelievable. Shout out to his doctor. Shout out to the Broncos training staff. Shout out to Javonte Williams. Shout out to the work he's put in. Shout out to genetics of NFL players, I guess. I don't even know. But yeah, incredible. Javonte Williams is going to be playing this Saturday.
Yeah, I've seen a few people on Twitter trying to take the victory lap of Javonte being healthy, or at least looking healthy, possibly being 100%. And I'm just like, no, I mean, every medical doctor out there would tell you what he's doing is not normal. Like, this is not what usually happens when this kind of injury happens. Usually it is a full year recovery before you're kind of getting back to that full speed ability. Probably another 6 months before you're actually feeling comfortable on that knee to cut. That's the big thing that's still left for him. You know, like, he's taken hits in practice, but he hasn't been taken down to the ground yet. So it'll be interesting in this game just to see him get tackled a couple times, see how he bounces back from that, see if he's favoring his good knee. I guess we'll call it his good knee at this point. There's just so many things still. There's still a lot of hurdles for him to get over. But the fact that he's playing in this game, like you said, is just pretty incredible. Like I said, I would have been laughing right next to you if somebody had said this is when he's going to be playing.
Not laughing, just calling you BS. Again, unprecedented, miraculous, improbable, whatever synonym you want to use for any of those words. That's where we are with Javonte Williams. Carl, maybe this is just me being overly data-driven and scientist-wise and seeing things and not trying to get my hopes up too much, especially after last year. I need to see it to believe it a little bit, and I want to make sure that he can get out there. And is he going to favor that need? I mean, is he going to be able to cut the same? Maybe it's still going to be a slow process for the next 6 games leading into the season or whatever. But still, the fact that he's going to be out there, unbelievable, really unbelievable, and probably besides the quarterback position, maybe the catalyst for this team this season. Because if the run game is going, you're going to be able to do a lot with Russell Wilson. If the run game stinks like they did last year, they're going to find a hard time working the pass game with Russell Wilson and the quick over the middle of the field stuff because just, again, historical precedent.
Yeah, I worry a little bit that they are rushing Javonte. But again, if they're going to maybe only give him like 2 or 3 carries, I'm not going to be too worried about that for this game. Like I said, I think he needs to be hit before the season. I think back to when Adrian Peterson had his miraculous recovery from his ACL tear, and everybody was just going, this man is not human. I still remember he started the season slow that year compared to how he finished the season. He was 150, 175 yards in a lot of those last games of the year. And so I'm kind of with you. I want to temper expectations just a little bit. I'd rather be surprised in a good way than surprised in a bad way at this point. I still like P. Ryan. I think I would still probably lean into him a little bit more early in the season. Maybe make it 50-50 carries and then start moving that number as the year goes on. But like I said, I'm just excited for Javonte to be back out there. I was so afraid that this was just going to be a wasted year on his rookie contract when he's such a good player. Yeah. And to see him get his chance to hopefully be a big contributor this season, I really hope he can stay healthy because I think this offense with him healthy, like I said, I think it could be a very dangerous one in the NFL.
Yeah, and the running back market, it's somewhat dried up a tad. Not that the Broncos should have gone out there and paid Ezekiel Elliott or Dalvin Cook, but there was options out there with those 2 guys both going to the AFC East. Broncos have a little bit less avenues to add to the running back room for now. Once the rosters are cut down from 90 to 53, there'll be some running backs available. And Drew McLaughlin looked pretty good. If they had to lean on him for a bit, I don't know if they could, get him out there for 20 snaps a game, given the pass blocking questions that he has, but it would be interesting to follow. Michaela Israel says, hi, this is Cooper. What's up? Not too much, Cooper. Just trying to stop sweating. I feel like my face is okay right now, but I'm just drenched everywhere else. So thank you so much. Good to see you, Cooper. Zach Powers, afternoon, fellas. Doing well. Yeah, Tanner said he turned off his AC. You don't got to do that. I'm trying to stay cool. Luckily, the dog and the cat are locked up in the room with the air conditioner, so that's okay. They're going to be okay. Bobby Bottoms says, hey, guys, sorry. Just got on. Thanks for the show. You should be sorry. We go live at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. You should know that, Bobby. No, it's okay. You can listen after the fact, too. You don't got to be here right then, although it's always a little bit more fun when you guys can be here live and join in the conversation. David Knucklerath, Papa Bear, coming in $10, says, good evening, Broncos country. Nick Carl Dillon and Deacon Scott. He's still saying 12-5. He's saying Buckham 3 times. He's saying MHH for life and Denver Broncos for life. What do you think about the 12-5? I feel like I've asked you this before, but I want to ask you now after that first preseason game. Where are you feeling? Where were you at before that game, and where are you at now?
Honestly, I don't change a whole lot, especially from first preseason game with a new coach, a lot of new pieces. The starting offense, obviously going 3 and out right off the bat, a little bit worrisome. The next couple drives, just a couple things went wrong. They were actually moving the football, just a few things that they can clean up. Like I said, P. Ryan dropping that ball and that screen pass that maybe would have gone for at least a first down, if not a touchdown. That changes the optics of that entire game if that is what happens. If they go down and score on that one. Then you got 2 missed field goals with the first team unit out there. So really, in 4 drives, probably with a competent kicker, you're looking at 13 points. Now, I know it was against a lot of second teamers for the Cardinals, but I think we'd all feel pretty darn good if that's where it was after 4 drives, 13 points. You probably get about 8 or 9 drives a game, maybe 10 drives. So that's about 26 points a game. Again, that puts you top 10 in the NFL. That's what we're hoping for with this offense. If you can get a top 10 offense, make things a little bit easier for the defense, maybe get them right at that edge of where they were top 10 last year, then I feel like maybe 12-5 is a real possibility.
Yeah.
Right now, I still lean closer to probably 9 or 10.
I'm probably being too reactionary to one single game, but it's because of what I think of the talent that the Cardinals had on their defense and the fact that the Broncos were playing their first team unit. And I don't think too much is going to change from offensive linemen and their one-on-ones too much. Scheme-wise, they're still going to have to be able to win their matchups in pass pro, and did not see that. So I had the Broncos at about 9 wins. I might have them now at about 8 wins. How much has changed? They're floating right around 500, but definitely bringing the not bringing the panic alarm or anything like that. But the offensive line is on watch, and I truly, truly, truly believe that with how Russell Wilson plays, he has to have a good run game and a good offensive line to be a successful quarterback. If we're talking about him in the top 15 of quarterback levels. And if he's not that, I just don't know if the Broncos have enough other pieces to really, pull him along. Granted, kind of pulling him along if you have a great offensive line and run game, but I think he needs that. His style just specifically, he needs that. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not this super quick pass, accurate, full field reads kind of guy at a shotgun throwing it 40 times a game. That's not his game. He needs to be under center, pulling safeties and linebackers in from play action, then buying it and efficient over the top. Doesn't happen unless you have a good offensive line and run game in tandem. So I am worried. Maybe I'm overreacting. You guys can tell me to calm down. That's fine. Maybe you disagree. But they'll have to be better than what they showed against the Arizona Cardinals if this is going to be a team that hopes to be above 500 this season, in my opinion. But we'll see. We also got, so coming back here to Javonte Williams being healthy. Now that he is going to be here, what do you expect his role to be this season overall? Like we've talked about him, how much Sean Payton loves to use the running back in the pass game, loves to use multiple running backs. Javonte Williams is obviously the best running back talent-wise on this team. Where do you think he'll end up in terms of potentially total yards, and where would he rank in target share on this team, in your opinion, now that the wide receiver position's in a little bit of flux too?
Yeah, I think by the season's end, he'll still be at the 65-70% of carries mark for the Broncos. P. Ryan, I think he's a really good number 2. And if you can get him 30% of the snaps, plus being kind of more your third down guy, because he's got good hands. He's shown that he can be a decent receiver out there. He's not going to take anything for, a 70-yard touchdown by any means, but he can be a competent player in that way and save you Javonte for the real running up the gut kind of thing. Javonte, I'd still say he's probably going to have 25 catches on the season, just because, like I said, I think teams are going to try to be very aggressive against Russell Wilson, and he's going to be looking for those check down routes pretty quickly. If the route number 1 is not open, check down right here. And so I think he's got decent enough hands, 25 catches, and Javonte Williams in the open field. We've seen what that looks like. It's very pretty to watch. Him taking on a cornerback in the open field. I can't imagine the cornerback's eyes watching this guy running at you. It's kind of the same thing with Derrick Henry. There's some people that make some business decisions at that point going, I don't think this is worth it. And so I think he'll help in the pass game, but I still think that they're going to try to mostly save him for the run game as much as possible. P. Ryan gets in on those for sure pass downs most of the time.
I just feel like Williams has much more explosive ability in space, the ability to make a cornerback or safety miss out in space more so than P. Ryan. I feel like P. Ryan, he's going to get you, 4 or 5 yards no matter what, not super dynamic in the open field, where Williams, the yards after contact, he was number 1 in the NFL in yards after contact per attempt a few seasons ago. Now, granted, will that translate to the pass game? There's a lot of talk of that last year, and his work in the pass game didn't really get to see it come to fruition because of injuries, but going to be curious. I mean, gosh, he's a huge catalyst for this offense, so hopefully he could be healthy. Doug, talking about guys who are big catalysts, he comes in and says, who thinks Alex Singleton is going to have a big year? As long as he can stay healthy, and I think Josie Jewell being healthy next to him matters a lot too, then I think he can have a big year. I do wonder if, let's say Josie goes down and the green dot goes to Singleton, how much does that change his ability to communicate and ad lib out there? Because he's going to have to do a little bit more mental hand-holding with whoever comes in behind Josie. So I think Alex Singleton can have a big year. But I do think it's important for both linebackers to stay healthy so Singleton can be a little bit more aggressive and I don't want to use the word freelance, but just a little bit more room to roam and make some plays outside of structure.
Yeah, obviously even in that first preseason game, made some really nice plays in the backfield, and he looks confident. He looks like a guy that he knows his job. He knows what he's supposed to be doing every single play. And like I said, and I think he has a little bit of leeway now compared to years past, where he's got that confidence after a new contract. And when guys can play free like that, that's when big things can happen. Now, obviously, you don't want him playing too free and causing a big hole to open up because of it. I think there's a linebacker for the Patriots who was athletic freak, but like about every other play, he was ad-libbing and doing his own thing. And of course, Belichick was not very happy about that. But when he was making the plays, like it was either a really positive play or a really negative play for him. Singleton's not quite that kind of guy. But again, I think him being a little bit more free because Jewell getting everybody lined up. Yeah, I think him coming on blitzes. It sounds like they have some specialty blitzes for those inside linebackers. I think Jewell was talking about it a little bit today, and they're excited. Like they're going to be playing a lot more downhill this season than I think they were the last couple. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they will be. I mean, they were super aggressive last year though, too, Carl. I think it was the 4th highest blitz rate team in the NFL.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
So, I mean, the second year more of guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of I think a lot of people have this idea of Fangio, and he was actually a very, very conservative coach when it came to how he called the defense. Now, I mean, he was aggressive in his secondary work and getting guys into positions to go make some big plays. But his blitz packages, he didn't have a ton of those going compared to this last year with Evero. So I agree. I think they were playing a lot more downhill, but I think even now, I think we're going to see a little bit more of them coming on blitzes, where I think Evero mixed it up a little bit more of who was coming.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun to see. They need to be I'm curious to see if the defensive line can hold up enough to get 3rd and longs where you can be a little bit more aggressive with those blitzes. Because I don't know how the defensive tackles hold up there. But we'll find out. And giving me a hard time there. Scott took it down, but I don't know if I'm being too much of a negative Nelly switching the Broncos game prediction by just one game. But it was the first team offense out there, and I just was not super impressed with what the offensive line looked like. So hopefully they'll get better. And just one game. Got our guy Patrick Wiltsey coming in here saying, "Aloha, gents. I really hope they do address the lines." Yeah, both offensive line and defensive lines. I think we can guarantee one thing this upcoming offseason. The Broncos are going to be aggressive in the trenches and trying to add talent. Now they're negative 30 million against the cap, but they can free up a lot of room as well. And also that's without the bump up that we'll see from the salary cap as well. We don't know exactly how much it's going to expand yet. So it'll probably be less. They'll be less in the red than 30 million. But adding to the offensive and defensive lines is pretty much all but a guarantee with a Bill Parcells disciple like Sean Payton and somebody like George Payton who preaches adding to the offensive line or adding to the lines despite, not drafting tackles and adding to that streak since the 2017 draft. But thank you so much, Patrick. Always shout out to you, and hopefully everything is okay out there where you're at. I know you're dealing with some I think Big Island has some wildfires as well. Obviously nothing like what happened in Maui, but just crazy times. I think there's a hurricane also kind of south of Hawaii. Hopefully it's not going to get too close there. But yeah, the weather is absolutely wild right now. So Carl, I did want to get to one more big topic here. And if there's any super chats, we can kind of go down through that. But I think one of the biggest news today that we haven't talked about so much yet that has me pretty concerned is Quan Williams. Mike Kliss wrote an article about it today. They talked about it a bit. Quan Williams is got a second opinion on his current injury. They recommended more rehab and rest, and they hope him to be ready week 1. This all has language surrounding it, in my opinion, that says that this could be something that holds him back for a bit, and it might be, week to week, we're seeing him on the injury report, maybe even missing some time, and not quite 100% for a while. I mean, the rest rehab stuff and hoping he's ready week 1, red flags for me.
I'm with you there. He has a pretty long injury history already before this. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he is just such a underrated player when he does play, I think he's such a great player, but the fact he can't stay on the field makes me nervous. And then the fact that his backup right now is Bassey. I know he had the big interception in the game and, that's great. But he also had a play where I think it was a 3rd down and 5 or something like that. And he allowed a guy to get inside on a quick slant and easy catch, big play for Arizona. And he struggled with that all the time. And for a nickel corner, for a slot corner to struggle with those kind of plays on a regular basis, always being a step behind, always being a little bit slower, that's not great for the Broncos, especially if you're going to be a very aggressive defense and a quarterback's looking to hit those quick passes, and you've got maybe 1 or 2 people that can make a tackle to keep it from turning into a really big play. That's not great. So I don't feel good about Bassey. There's a couple other cornerbacks I'd probably prefer if Quan Williams is going to miss some time other than Bassey, but it seems like somehow he keeps sticking around. So coaches seem to like him, but what I've seen on the field, I've never been a huge fan.
He is a good tackler. He's not out of position very often. And he seems like a smart player. It just drives me nuts because the click and close ability is just not there. The ability to close on the ball. But he's fine. He got beat pretty badly on the slant prior to that interception, but then made it up. Wide receiver slipped. Nobody should fault him for the other guy making a mistake and him taking advantage of it. I mean, that's a lot of picks out there. So if he's the backup for a bit, that's fine. But you're going to lose a lot of explosiveness, tenacity, athleticism, blitzing ability from if Quan Williams is out for a bit. And I think this is worth monitoring going forward with the language that was used. I think there's a chance that he's not going to be ready week 1, and he might miss a little bit of time with this injury if they're going to slow play it. And maybe they should. You'd rather have him healthy, for weeks 4 and on than potentially go out there and not be 100% and get injured worse. I don't know the extent of the injury, but seeking a second opinion is always something that should be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like I said, I really love Quan Williams when he's on the field. He's been a very underrated player and really just makes that number 1, 2, 3 cornerback grouping for the Broncos look pretty dynamic. Where you're going to go with the football allows you to do a lot of things with your blitz packages because of what they can do. And we got Troy coming back in again saying predictions on Shanahan and the Hall of Fame. There's something there that they don't like him a whole lot. I think he is kind of a difficult personality, and we've kind of seen in the past with the Hall of Fame, there's just guys that if they don't like you personally, they're willing to vote against you, even if your resume, like on paper, looks like it should be Hall of Fame worthy. And Shanahan at this point, I think we've seen his resume's Hall of Fame worthy. 2 Super Bowls. His offense is spread throughout the entire NFL. Teams have just been amazed at what his offense can do of opening things up. Obviously his son now showing that he's probably got one of the most quarterback-friendly systems in the league at this point. Obviously what his son's doing shouldn't really do anything for him, but it's still, obviously, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I think they're still going to keep delaying it just a little bit.
It's one of those things that you cannot write the history of the NFL without talking about Shanahan just because of his fingerprints all across the league in the offenses. There's so many Mike Shanahan disciples and this West Coast zone blocking scheme, running backs don't matter league. It's literally, I wouldn't say totally defined, but it's been a huge factor on offenses in the NFL for the last 20 years. So I think he has to get in, had success at multiple teams. He's so monumental for the league, been an ambassador for the league as well for a bit. So I think you have to have Mike Shanahan in there. He was a great coach for a while. And again, his offenses and his schemes changed the direction of the NFL. How many teams are running that West Coast offense outside zone scheme? It feels like it's half the teams in the league right now. Now I know that, it comes originally, you can say, Bill Walsh as well as the original one there, but Mike Shanahan took it and added to it and changed it as well. So yes, Mike Shanahan, Hall of Fame has to be. You can't write the league story without him. He should be in.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that at all. Like I said, just those 2 Super Bowls alone, having one of the most dynamic offenses that we've seen in the league, especially for those 90s teams. And like I said, changed the direction of the league. Nobody was running what he was running until he started bringing it to the NFL there in the 90s. And now, like I said, it's just everywhere. Every team runs at least something that he has or that he used to run, at least in some kind of formation. Now, obviously, they don't do the cut blocks anymore because that's illegal. But but there's a reason they had to make that illegal, not only because of the injuries, but because it was just so dang amazing. It was unfair to defenders. And obviously it made them have to think, I've got guys diving at my knees right now. And it made them slow down a little bit, trying to keep, their body facing forward. And we got Todd coming in saying, isn't Shanny in? No, he is not. He's a little bit like Pat Bowlen it took a few extra years compared to what he should have been to be able to get in. Like, to me, I thought it was a travesty that the NFL put Jerry Jones in before they put Pat Bowlen, especially just a little bit with knowing his health issues. It would have been great to have gotten him in before he passed away. And I don't think he would have been able to come to the ceremony by any means, but just to have that moment with his family when he's alive compared to after he passed away, I think that would have been great to see. But I think it's going to be the same thing with Mike Shanahan. There's a little bit of, if you're not one of those powerhouse teams, like they're talking about right now, it's a little bit between like Robert Kraft and Mike Shanahan of who gets into the Hall of Fame. My guess is Kraft, just because he's obviously owner, big market, all those kind of things. Mike Shanahan mostly coached small market Denver. They're just a little bit of an afterthought when it comes to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, unfortunately, but he's in the Ring of Fame. You're probably confusing the Hall of Fame, the gold jacket, with the orange jacket of the Ring of Fame. So hopefully we'll get that corrected here pretty soon. Patrick's saying F-bomb was used. I don't know if I said F, frick, or if I said fine, because that is also a 4-letter F word that I have been known to use, unfortunately, on here. Hopefully the offensive line is fine. But Carl, I am melting in my chair right now. It says it's 94 degrees in here now because I closed it, and I am very hot. Luckily, it doesn't look like I have a fever or something on the screen, but probably going to start to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts before we get in there? We'll give anybody with the chance for a super chat, super stickers. I will sweat and, be suffering for super chat and superstars and everything like that. But any other final thoughts? We talked about Kendell Williams today. A lot of injury updates. The Broncos waived from Elliott Fry. They brought in another long snapper. So we got a long snapper competition now. Special teams battles don't end. And Javonte Williams should be playing, is expected to play. And they've thrown around language such as 100% when discussing him, physically 100%. Any other thoughts on that or anything you want to touch on a little bit more?
Well, I'm just hoping that our offense can get as hot as you are there, sitting there in 94 degrees, and as hot as all of our contributors tonight of Troy coming in, Michael Ronquillo, Gary Palmer, Stu McPeak, of course, getting good to see him again, Gina Cooper, Phil McLaughlin, David McElrath, just all of you guys out there, all of you here in the chat, all of you tuning in, just appreciate each and every one of you being here. This is hopefully a promising season. Hopefully we're in December and all excited about where this team's going and how this offense, like I said, has been taken to a whole new level. I saw somebody earlier put the over under for the offense of 20 points. I think I'd take the over. I do. I think 22 points a game, if they can get to that, I'd feel pretty good about the steps that this offense has taken compared to last year. I think last year they were like 16.9 points a game. Mm-hmm. And I think, if I remember right, to start off the season, the first 10 games, if they had scored 18 points exactly in every one of those games, they would have been 9-1. That's how good the defense started out the season. And, part of it falling off was obviously trading Chubb, injuries, those kind of things. But I think also just, the defense getting tired of we're out here busting our butts, keeping you guys in games, and we're losing 10-9 because you guys can't score a single point, So like I said, if they can get to 22 points, I'm going to feel good about that progression under Sean Payton.
Just get to league average and protect the football. Be efficient. Last season, the Broncos defense saw, I think, some of the most snaps in the league last year because the offense was so terrible on like first down and like 3 and outs. They're just horrible. I mean, worst offense in the NFL. So hopefully it'll be at least league average this year. And anything from there is, gravy in my opinion. So hopefully it'll get better. And Doug says, come to Thailand if you want hot. This is where I live. Thailand sounds like a fun place, Doug, but I hear it's hotter than heck there. And I don't know about that. Thanks, Nick, Carl, and Scott, and Dylan. Go take a shower, Nick. I got to walk the dog first in this temperature at some point, so I'll probably wait for that. But hope you're doing well. Orange Bucky says, try 105 degrees in San Antonio. The thing is, you have air conditioning. It's 95 degrees outside, and I do not have air conditioning. So it's a different kind of thing. I would rather have the 105 with AC personally. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you are following Carl on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler, MHH. I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at BTB Football Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join our Facebook communities, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, if you're joining us on YouTube today, like most of you folks are, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to Mile High Huddle, like this show, and share it on your social media platforms. I see some more questions coming in here, guys. We'll get to you again. Scott and I will be talking tomorrow morning on his channel, some Falcons and some just NFL stuff. And then obviously Mile High Huddle will have another show tomorrow night. So appreciate everybody coming in. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you're staying cool. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.